Hello, everyone, and welcome to the very first episode of Silver Screen Anomalies, brought to you by Eldritch Creative. I'm Hallie.
And I'm Skyler. Welcome, everybody.
Welcome. We're super pumped to be here. Silver Screen Anomalies is going to be a film review podcast, and spoiler alert, it's full of spoilers.
Yeah, we're going to spoil the shit out of these movies. Also, we get a little salty sometimes. So plug your ears, close your eyes. I don't know what you want to do there to try and make that easier.
If you want to see these movies that we're reviewing and you care at all about spoilers, turn off the podcast. Do it right now.
Yeah.
Right now.
It's in our maritime blood to just warn you about these things because we're very humble Canadians. But at the same time, we get a little salty from time to time, as you know, right, Hallie?
That's right. Yeah. Wait, why'd you say it like that?
No reason.
You saying I have anger issues or something?
No, not at all. So
better not be.
So why don't we get into our first movie of...
yeah, okay, sure. That sounds good.
Yeah, our first film topic of discussion is Godzilla, King of the Monsters. Yeah, Godzilla. So this is exciting. So this is the brand new Godzilla movie. It's directed by Michael Dougherty of Krampus fame. I really like Krampus. All right, so synopsis. This is the follow-up to Gareth Evans' 2016 reboot titled Godzilla. It's an Americanized iteration of the Toho-era monster movie icon. It follows the cryptozoologist team Monarch on their quest to stop a global apocalyptic event in the form of a battery of monstrous titans. They must fight fire with fire and awaken Godzilla as an ally to defend humanity against an overwhelming threat, with humanity's very existence hanging in the balance. Also, Godzilla has roomy hips.
Such a chunky boy. He got swole.
He got a little, those birthing hips, right? Like,
yeah.
He's got a little chunky.
See, You said that it was a great synopsis, by the way.
Thank you.
But all I heard is monsters fight monsters.
You know what?
Monster.
For the audience's sake, and really for your own sanity's sake with this movie, the only thing you need to remember and focus on when you go see this thing is that monsters punch each other. And if you enjoy that, you will probably like this movie.
Skyler, would you say it's a monster mash?
Oh, I'm mad? Okay. Why don't we start with the plot, or whatever that is supposed to be exactly. Hallie, I'm going to let you go first because I'm going to get a little aggressive.
Okay. All right. Well, I'll be honest. There's not much to this plot. You got some interesting themes and topics going on. One of the main characters, Dr. Emma Russell, played by Vera Farmiga, teams up with an eco-terrorist group led by Charles Dance's character, Alan Jonah. And their idea is that in order to heal the planet from damage done by humans, you need to wake up all the titans that have been dormant for thousands and thousands of years, because they'll smash a bunch of things and destroy a bunch of things, and somehow from the radiation that they put off, new life and plant life will grow?
Yeah, something like that. It's basically a purging plot. It's very much the monsters are going to sort of reawaken this apocalyptic event and wipe the planet clean of the bad humans.
I mean, they're not wrong, but they are a bit wrong. Okay, they are wrong. I'm not...
Hallie, it's stupid.
Yeah, okay. It's thin. And character motivations there are a little bit lost for me. So one of the main things that they bring up in the movie, Vera Farmiga's character's motivation for joining up with this eco-terrorist group, is that during the initial Godzilla movie from 2016, her son was killed. And I should say, it's not just her son, but another character in the movie, Mark Russell, their son was killed during the Godzilla attack against the Mutos from the first film. And I don't know, Skyler, that...
Hallie, okay, so can I rant a little?
I please, by all means.
So, okay. This movie has so many blatant errors in story structure and plot that I don't even know where to start. But let's start with Vera Farmiga and her character, Emma. The stepping on of the child. Hypothetically.
I mean, Godzilla might not have squished that child, but, it might have happened as a byproduct. That child may have gotten squished.
That's true. However...
Let's not go blaming Godzilla for stuff.
I'm not going to go let's leave him out of this. Boy. Yeah, that would be an awkward court case. He wouldn't fit in the building. Anyway.
He would crush the building.
If a monster, let's just use kaiju. If a kaiju stepped on my non-existent son, the last thing that I would want to do is reawaken all of the other monsters on the planet to step on more children. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, that does make sense. You raise a valid point. I don't feel like being mad at Godzilla, or I guess she wasn't even really mad at Godzilla, though.
She didn't seem mad. No one seemed like they had any emotions in this movie.
Well, I mean...
I'm going to get spicy.
Mark Russell, Kyle Chandler's character, definitely seemed pissed off at
Permanently
Godzilla.
angry.
Permanently angry. Pissed at Godzilla.
He made me angry.
Yeah.
Do you remember? Okay, so I'm sorry. There's a scene in this movie with Kyle Chandler.
Yeah.
Where the zoologist group Monarch, they're meeting in a military setting. Very high ranking, very serious. They're coming up with a plan to reawaken Godzilla to basically fight against Ghidorah, I think at this point, or to stop this sort of apocalyptic event that's taking place by the eco-terrorists. And in this meeting, Kyle Chandler, who, by the way, I believe is just some sort of like animal specialist of some sort. He doesn't have...
He studies animal behaviors.
Yeah, that's exactly. Yeah. So, in other words, his rank and status in this meeting is incredibly low.
Well, almost. So, one of the big points of the film is that in order to wake up the Titans, Vera Farmiga's character, Emma Russell, co-created a device called the Orca, which basically puts out a noise.
It's like a signal, yeah.
It's a signal. It like basically says, hey, I'm over here. Or, hey, time to wake up.
They touched on it a little bit in the 2016 reboot of Godzilla with the Mutos, how they were actually like broadcasting where their location, and Godzilla would basically show up wherever they showed up. So they sort of did like a re-examination of that in the form of this Orca device.
That's right.
However, Kyle Chandler talking over a high-ranking military officer and just shutting down the entire scene of the movie just constantly like rubbed me the wrong way. And I couldn't help but feel that way about a lot of characters in this movie, because this movie prioritizes the monsters over its human characters. And it's not to say that, like, I mean, let's face it, we're going into this movie with monsters in mind. We want to see the spectacle. We want to see the fighting. But you need to have a story. You need to have a good, solid, structured plot with good characters that we can relate to, because let's face it, I love Godzilla as much as the next person, but you can't relate to an ancient tyrant monster from the ocean.
I'm pretty sure I could if I tried.
I believe that.
I don't know what that says about me, but I'm pretty sure I could if I tried.
Yeah, as much as I would want to, like I would like to try, but you need some human characters. You need someone in there that we can relate to and like. A lot of these characters don't have any character written for them at all. It's very much just a series of just, first of all, quality cast. Amazing
cast. I'd have to say, like, as far as the performances go, they were great. Everybody did a really good job. What I have a problem with is the motivations for some of the characters.
Absolutely.
I'd say that the ones that I don't have a problem with are the Monarch scientist, Dr. Serizawa, played by Ken Watanabe.
Oh, he's great.
And Dr. Vivian Graham, who's played by Sally Hawkins. They were in the first movie. If you've seen the first movie, you know what their motivations are. And I feel like Dr. Serizawa and I are on the same page there. We are pro-Godzilla. I'm okay with that. His big thing since the first movie has been let them fight. And now you've got all these Titans waking up, and he's just like, this is their fight. They've got to, Godzilla's going to save us, that sort of thing. And we got to help Godzilla, got to help the G-Boy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree with you. I actually think Sally Hawkins and Ken Watanabe are probably the most likable characters in the movie and have the most relatable, I guess, motivations. And I think being held over from the previous movie certainly helped with that. But everybody else is just there to choose, basically to choose scenery. There's even a character specifically selected, and I think it's played by Bradley Whitford. He plays Rick Stanton, who is literally there to be comedic relief.
Yeah.
And the jokes in this movie, the forced comedy is so bad that there were groans in the theater.
You want to break up some of the tension sometimes, but
sure, but write a good joke.
Oh,
do you know what I mean? It's
burn.
It's real bad. A lot of them were groaners, and I understand we're in a monster movie here, and I'm not expecting you to write, look, movie, me and you have a beef. I'm not asking you to write A grade level like stand-up comedy for this. Not at all. But you got to try. You got to give me something. It's almost like the script. Like this script felt like it was a first draft. Do you agree?
I'd say maybe a second or third.
I'm gonna
First drafts.
I'm sticking with the first.
I'd like to see the first draft, if I'm perfectly honest. I'd like to see what the first take was of this plot. But I mean, there are some themes in this film as well that they're really interesting and really powerful.
Yeah. I know the concept of bringing back monstrous gods to bring humanity back to its origin, or its, like, I guess, point of origin, or its roots, to purge the planet of all of what's causing the planet's destruction. Like, that, in theory, is a big, grandiose plot that works really well and ties really well into this, I guess, a playground of giant monster titans fighting each other. Like, it actually really works. And you could organically weave that in there in a better way if you utilized your plot and your characters better, in my opinion.
Now, that said, not all the script was really kind of flat. There were a couple of moments in that film that really hit me hard. And one of them, if you know anything about Godzilla and its origins, was really, really powerful line delivered by Dr. Serizawa. And especially because, you know, the original Godzilla from 1954 was heavily inspired by the devastation of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So something that Dr. Serizawa says while discussing with Mark Russell, Kyle Chandler's character, was sometimes the only way to heal our wounds is to make peace with the demons that cause them.
Yes.
And knowing Dr. Serizawa's father was in Hiroshima or Nagasaki during the atomic bombing, that really
it's a powerful moment.
Powerful line.
Yeah.
And really well written, really well delivered.
It actually, I'll be honest, like, obviously I've been coming down hard on this movie from the start. The start of the review. I do want to echo what you said there, because that line hit me like a ton of bricks. Like, it actually was so jarringly great that I actually didn't see it coming. It was kind of like, oh, that was a message. And it really tied into the plot itself really well. I just wish that there was something stringing it together a little bit better. Like, I wish the movie itself had a lot more weight to kind of compensate for that moment as well. But I did really enjoy that. That was actually like it was a brilliant line. From a story standpoint, like, I do really think that this movie, I'll be a little bit more positive on it too, because we haven't gotten obviously to the back end of the review where we focus a little more on some of the technicals. But like, staying on topic with the story structure, I do feel like this movie has really good balance and pacing. I think that, like, I think from a balancing standpoint, I think this Godzilla movie does a much better job at keeping the audience engaged in both the balancing act of the monsters and the monster fights and all of the action and the plot. Yeah.
A big thing for me watching any movie, as a writer, as just a general movie goer, is that the pacing of the film needs to be really well balanced.
God, yes. Especially
it can't be too fast. It can't be too slow.
Yeah.
Like, it's got to be well paced. Otherwise, I'm taken out of it. I'm bored. Whatever. And this one was good.
It is. And especially when you've got a movie with a runtime that's exceeding 2 hours as well. Like, that's something that really strikes a nerve with me, where you're sitting in the theater forever and you're just waiting for something to happen.
Yeah.
This Godzilla movie actually does a really good job of keeping you engaged. It balances and structures everything in such a way where as soon as you start to lull or feel like you're falling out of, like, sort of the more meager, weak plot points, they give you a monster fight that just it reels you back in. And these monster fights, by the way, are something to behold.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my God. So monsters, just give me more monsters. That I could have enjoyed way more monster battles. And
are we at that point of the review now?
Yeah, we are. Let's do it. I want to talk,
because I really want to actually start getting a little more positive about this movie, because there's a lot to like.
Yeah, there is. I mean, put the plot aside. Now we're going to focus on these monsters.
Oh my goodness.
And this design. And oh my God. So I love my boy.
Well, as you just probably, for the audience's sake, as you all have just heard, Hallie's a writer. I myself have a visual effects background. So CGI is more my world. And oh my goodness, this movie on a spectacle level, on a just sheer technical level, is really something to behold. really struck a nerve with me with just how bold it was and just how unapologetically it focused so much attention on these monster fights. There's the animation and the beauty of the shots in this movie. There were several moments in this movie I wanted to rip like a frame down and put it on my wall.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I just want a big poster of that.
Good Lord. King Ghidorah is beautiful. As a villain, I think really, really works. Like for a villain who literally has no dialogue, the sheer scale and scope of this monster is so magnificent, and there's such an omnipresent threat there that you really feel kind of like the weight of the cataclysm, the I guess the world, the humanity really is in the balance here.
Oh yeah, it is on a knife's edge, and I love the design and concept of Ghidorah. It is just like massive. It is the storm at the end of the world, you know.
Absolutely.
Literally the storm at the end of the world. It shoots lightning from its wings.
That's just kind of fucking awesome.
Or its face. I don't know. There's lightning, and I love it. I loved everything about that.
From I guess to blend story into the monsters, one of the coolest story beats from the monsters' perspective, I really love this little romance that Mothra and Godzilla have in this movie.
It's so cute.
It's adorable.
It really was.
Tumblr probably ate that up.
I'm sure. Yeah, it seems like a Tumblr jam for sure.
Absolutely. So for the audience's sake, there's sort of like this unspoken connection or romance, like an ancient romance between Godzilla and Mothra in this movie. They actually sort of partner up to try and take down Ghidorah and Rodan at the end of the movie, and it is really something.
It's where Godzilla is the king of the monsters. Mothra is the queen of the monsters.
It was a nice little twist.
It really was.
I really
and
enjoyed that.
Oh my God, that design. I just was in total awe anytime Mothra was on the screen.
Yeah, it was just stunning to look at.
Stunning.
We should point out a little bit, I want to talk a little bit about this director's background because it actually ties into this topic about the technical aspects of the movie. Now, Michael Dougherty, and I mentioned this in the intro, is responsible for what I would consider to be one of the more underappreciated monster movies in recent memory, and that would be Krampus. He also directed Trick or Treat. Great horror film. Now, one of the most notable things about Krampus in particular is the sound design. It has one of the best cases of sound design mixed with beautiful, almost like, it reminds me a lot of Gremlins in a way. Like it's got that mean-spirited Christmas thing going on with like practical and digital effects mixing together in this like this harmony that I really, really enjoy. It makes every single monster attack feel impactful. And that ties into Godzilla really well because the amplification of every single fight, the weight of every single fight, there's so much detail. Something that Jurassic Park is famous for is obviously the T-Rex sequence in the rain. And the reason why that shot works so well is because they're taking their weaknesses, they're taking their, I guess, disconnect in visual effects, which at the time they had a struggle. Like it was the early days of visual effects, so they actually struggled a lot with comping characters into sequences, making the textures look real. So for those wide shots of the T-Rex, they had to hide a lot of those like tiny details in the rain and darkness. This movie actually utilizes that perfectly, but you also have state-of-the-art modern technology where you can see every tiny little microfiber of Godzilla's face. And it just looks so awesome. The scale, the sense of scale that you get on each of these creatures when they're fighting in the rain in this sort of misty environment. You can see every tiny little water droplet falling off of their face. It just makes the whole thing feel so big.
Mm-hmm. Now, I did have a couple of issues with the size of the monsters in certain areas.
Right.
Like there's a part where Godzilla's kind of in the water in the Arctic. And it's just kind of like, what are you standing on right now?
Oh, yeah. Some of that
like,
stuff
I don't
is
think
super
you're
silly.
that big that you can touch the bottom wherever you are there.
There's an image floating around the internet that's actually criticizing that, and it's hilarious.
So like, but you know what? Didn't take me out of it. I was
because the shot was so awesome.
Happy.
You know what? I can suspend my disbelief in a lot of areas, and when it comes to big monster movies, stuff like that doesn't bother me nearly as much as just genuine plot elements. Like that's when I have a hard time suspending my disbelief. When you need me to believe in something more tangible.
But you're not giving me enough of a reason why I should believe it.
And I mean, this franchise is definitely known for having some blatant continuity issues. The Roland Emmerich Godzilla from 1998, I believe, or 99. Whatever, not important. That era, Godzilla.
Are we talking Matthew Broderick?
Yes, exactly. Now, that movie, holy moly, that Godzilla changes shape and size constantly throughout the movie. And there's one point, I believe, where the monster, like Godzilla, jumps into the water. And the size and scale of this creature would have caused a cataclysmic wave. And it just kind of like has a little splash. It's kind of hilarious.
Maybe
it's
that Godzilla
really.
was an expert dive master. You could get some of them to dive. Look, I'm going to
physics,
defend
Hallie.
Godzilla, okay?
It's called water physics, Hallie.
I don't care. I'm talking about a giant atomic fire-breathing lizard.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I mean, that kind of really sums it up with Godzilla, I think, like for the most part. Like we kind of hit on all the points here. Like for the audience's sake, you really do need to go into this thing with an open mind, and you need to know exactly what you're going in to see. Like when we went to see this, it was really about, we knew that we just wanted to see monsters punch each other. Some of the more heavier plot elements really struck a nerve with me and I guess really bother me because of how blatantly underwritten they were. But if you're going in for the sheer spectacle of this, you absolutely can have a good time with this and have a lot of fun with this.
Oh, yeah. I went in for Godzilla. The human side of the story was meh, but Godzilla, anytime I see him charging up his atomic fire breath attack, I am just bouncing in my seat. Literally, ask Skyler. I was bouncing
I was
in my
right
seat.
next to you, and you were literally freaking out at several points in this movie.
I have zero apologies to give you. Zero.
No, I know. I knew going into this review that you were definitely going to be more positive on this than me. So maybe we should segue this into our final scores then, because so for the audience, we rank these things out of 10, as Hallie mentioned earlier. So
did I? I probably did. Maybe I did.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're going to rank them out of 10. And so for me, I am giving the Godzilla King of the Monsters era 2019 an 8 out of 10.
I'm giving Godzilla King of the Monsters, the 2019 film, a 6.5 out of 10.
Ouch!
Yeah, sorry. It's the plot and the thin storyline that really just fell apart for me because at the end of the day, with a lot of movies, the way I have to think about these things is very much, will I watch this again and enjoy it? And to be honest, a lot of the human stuff, like, was a flat line for me. It will make repeat watches really hard, even though the spectacle of the monster fights is so awesome. So my 6.5 is still a recommendation. It's still a pass. This movie gets a pass with me, but I guess that makes our average somewhere in the like 75-ish%.
Dude, we're art students. Math.
Yeah, it's like a B- average between the two of us. I don't do math. We don't do math.
We don't do math.
Yeah.
No. But 8 out of 10 for me. Again, the human plot, kind of thin, not really into it. Motivations, character motivations were kind of lost on me. They didn't quite hit the mark, but my G-boy, he was awesome. I loved him. I loved the character. The creature designs were fantastic.
They're beautiful.
The battle sequences were a delight. So yeah, I'm okay with giving it an 8 out of 10.
It is the definition of like style over substance. Very much so.
Oh, for sure.
All right.
That's awesome. Yeah. So on to the next thing then.
Okay. Our next movie is titled The Host from 2006.
It is very important. 2006, not 2013. We are not touching any Stephenie Meyer movies in this podcast ever with a 10-foot pole. Ever.
Unless we just really want to make fun of Twilight, which might happen.
I don't think I could do that without blind rage. Honestly.
Okay, fair enough. Either way, our next movie is directed by Bong Joon-ho, and it is more of a modern take on a unique take on a monster movie. So it's from 2006. This movie is about the carelessness and indifference of the American military and the repercussions that come along with dumping chemicals into South Korea's Han River. This event triggers the creation of a river-dwelling monster that attacks local residents and abducts a family's daughter.
Yeah.
So to start, I just want to say, because this actually blends really well with our Godzilla review.
Yeah, it really is. It's a really nice counterbalance for Godzilla.
Yeah, and I don't know what your thoughts are on this one, Hallie, but I actually think this is one of the most important monster movies made in our modern era of film. I think it harkens back to a time when creature features meant more than just action, effects, and explosions. It's more than that. They were typically a reflection of the time and errors of humanity. Monsters meant something a little more in previous decades. Like there was always like different monsters that reflected different instances in time, different like cataclysms and mistakes of humankind.
Yeah, well, they're representing like different follies of humans.
Well, look no further than Godzilla. Like the original Gojira from the 40s was a direct message to Hiroshima.
Yeah, and nuclear testing.
Absolutely.
So then we've got this one, The Host, and Skyler. What's this one kind of referencing here?
Oh my goodness, so much. This movie is very much an embodiment of Korea in general. It's post World War II Korea. It's a monster movie about a lot of things, but more specifically, it's about Korea's relations with the U.S. The monster in the movie is actually a representation of America. In my opinion, if I have to be as bold and corny as possible, America is the monster in this movie, in my opinion.
I'm not. I got nothing.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's.
I mean, I'd say pollution is the monster in this one, and disposal of human waste and chemicals.
Sure, I agree with that 100%.
Yeah.
I think that's also the catalyst. It's more the decision and indifference of the choices made by the American military that caused that incident in the first place. Like when the American doctor orders the dumping of the chemicals in the beginning of this movie, that is actually a direct reference to a real depiction of a real event in life. Mm-hmm. Back in, I believe it was 2000, in Seoul, there was an ecological controversy revolving around the U.S. government dumping formaldehyde down the drain. And this is actually a direct sort of emulation of that.
Well, that's exactly how this movie starts.
It is blatant.
I see what you...
Yeah, it's cool, right?
All right. Yeah, that's really cool. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah. And something else that's kind of neat about this movie, because there's a lot to pay attention to. It's the kind of... I feel like this is more my kind of monster movie, just because there's a lot of layers to peel back. There's a lot of things to focus on, because it's more than just the monster. It's also a depiction of like American culture's perspective, or I guess like the American culture from the perspective of a foreigner, more specifically. Do you know what I mean? Because like, it's not that I don't think this movie actually like demonizes American culture necessarily, because it also focuses a little bit on like some of the issues that are completely unique to Korea. It's not just pointing the finger directly at any one thing, but I do think it does obviously, like, and rightfully so, focus on U.S.-Korean relations throughout history from a like political standpoint, from a like an environmental standpoint, perhaps. There's a lot to focus on here. It's really cool.
Yeah. So one thing that did stick out to me in the plot of this movie, just with the chemical dumpings, what were they dumping?
I'm confused by that too.
I'm pretty sure that, it seemed like it was a mortuary or an autopsy area that they were dumping these chemicals from. Is this an issue? Like, are we going to have zombies running around? I know there are so many people that are really excited about the zombies, but what are we in peril here? Like, what are the chemicals there? That's my question. What chemicals went down that drain to create that monster?
Yeah, I think they mentioned it at the beginning. I wish I actually had a reference to what they were dumping, but it was definitely just like vials of it. Almost looked like the secret ooze or whatever it was, the green ooze from the Ninja Turtles movie from the 90s.
Oh yeah, well that I don't have a problem with that particular one, but that was an alarming reaction of chemicals.
If any of our listeners know what chemicals they were dumping down the drain of this movie, please send us a message.
Please let us know, because I think we need to like keep an eye out for those chemicals. I really don't want a weird fish monster running around.
Yeah,
or zombies. I also don't want zombies running around.
Oh God, no. This monster. Let's talk about the monster. Because
sure.
I mean, there's obviously a lot of subtext to this movie and a lot to focus on from a cultural standpoint, but there's also a monster in this movie, and I feel like that's something that like the two of us could really play off of. Hallie, what's your thoughts and feelings on the monster?
I really like the monster design. I'm not gonna lie, it was practical. There were no parts of that monster that didn't serve a purpose, and it reminded me of some sort of weird land fish. Like,
it
had legs, it had weird tentacle things. It could move like a monkey along the underside of bridges, and it regurgitated people, somehow managed to stay alive. I don't know. Like,
100%.
It was a really interesting monster, and I could see how it was. I could see its origins, I guess. Like, I could see that it was a fish of some kind that had been warped into this weird land fish beast.
I couldn't agree with you more. Your opinions on the monster completely echo mine in a lot of ways. A lot of what I love about this monster is its practicality. Everything about it from a design standpoint makes perfect, like, anatomical sense to me. It is a sort of conglomerate of like real species that live on this planet, and it just mutated in such a way, so rapidly and so radically, that it turned into this new species altogether. And I can believe it. One of the best compliments I can give a movie, more specifically a monster movie, is the believability of the monster itself. Now, there are exceptions to the rule, like things like big kaiju movies and monster movies like that, like Godzilla and things like that. Those monsters don't necessarily, they're coming from a more fantastical place, so they don't necessarily have to completely make sense. Like Ghidorah was obviously, like, it's a 3-headed dragon monster, and they did not waste any time at all telling us that monster was an alien, which is great. I love that they did that. But this movie's monster needs to represent something a little bit different, and it's the effects of chemicals and pollution. So I really liked that they bothered to add those little tiny details to make this thing feel more authentic. Now, I have a question for you.
Okay, go on.
I really love the introduction of this monster. And if you remember correctly, that is like in broad daylight, it quite literally just
trundled up onto land and started chasing people around and eating them. Yeah. It was a really... I'm sorry, I see this is like trundling along, just lumbering all over the place.
Excuse me, I'm going to consult my thesaurus, and I'm going to add that to my list of vocabulary. I love trundled. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, a lot of monster movies, you see, the first time you see a monster, be it a giant dinosaur or some weird creature from the lagoon, a lot of the times it's in a dimly lit or nighttime scenario. This one was unapologetically in broad daylight chasing people around on the shore. And I can respect a monster who's not afraid to show his face in the daytime.
Yeah, absolutely. And
if I'm going to eat you, you're going to see my face.
100%. It was actually a lot of fun. And I mean, like, okay, this goes without saying, and this kind of plays a little bit into maybe some of the negatives of the movie, because there are some. This movie is not perfect. And one of the most glaring issues of the movie is the visual effects, because this is from 2006, an era of CGI where not the best, like comping was not quite perfected yet. Getting naturalistic lighting really wasn't quite there yet. And like this thing, in certain shots, especially some of those daytime shots, as bold as they are, it doesn't quite look great. There's some faulty effects work here.
You can tell where some of the CGI is CGI.
Absolutely.
In fact, you can tell where most of the CGI is CGI.
I agree 100%. But there's still something I still love that sequence. Like, it didn't matter to me because I loved the performance of the monster. Mm-hmm. It was just aimlessly acting like an animal. Like, it was running through all of these people, and it wasn't just like strategically planning anything. It wasn't chasing after specific people that were just, it wasn't like going for like, these characters don't have plot armor, I'm going after them. No, it was acting like an animal. It was going,
erratic. Hey, food.
Yeah, it was erratic.
Oh, look, I have to chase this food. Nom, nom, nom.
And there's a beautiful scene where like the monster is kind of like coming out of the surface of the water, or like there's something bubbling up to the surface, and all of the Korean people were throwing garbage into the water.
Yeah. Yeah, they were throwing. It's just like, wait, what?
Yeah, it couldn't be more of like an on-the-nose metaphor, really, for what the movie represents.
And that monster was like, oh, hey, food. No, not the food in the water. The food on the land. Oh, no.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, this results in the kidnapping of the daughter of the main character of the film, which leads into, I don't know if it's a negative per se, but at least leads to a really awkward scene. So the father character in this movie, he's kind of schlubby. He's a bit careless and really kind of lazy.
He comes across as pretty lazy, pretty just not there.
Yeah, he's not very present and not really caring much about.
But he does care about his daughter, and
Absolutely.
he does try.
Yeah.
Like he's collecting all this change so that he can buy her a cell phone, a new phone, and he wants to watch TV and spend time with her. So he really cares about her. He's just in other areas of life, just not quite present.
So the one thing in his life that he cares about gets ripped away from him, and that drives people mad. Like that actually winds up motivating people in a way that they are able to achieve things that they didn't otherwise think that they could as a result of this. Every character in this movie is developed and has an arc. Mm-hmm. Which is in complete contrast to Godzilla. There's a noticeable arc to all of these characters that actually beautifully culminates at the end because, spoilers, we discussed this earlier.
We discussed the spoilers. You were warned.
Yeah. The monster gets defeated by all of the arcs of the characters.
Yeah.
They actually use their own character motivations and arcs to defeat the monster. For example, I believe the uncle character is an alcoholic and uses Molotov cocktails with alcohol bottles to throw at the monster, while the sister is an archer.
Yeah.
And her deal was always that she always misses her final mark. And
she always holds back on the last shot.
Yeah.
On the shot.
And she takes that last shot and inevitably kills the monster.
Yeah.
There's some great stuff there. It's really, really, really good. There are some things, and I don't know if this is more just like a cultural thing or just like there are some like jarring inconsistencies in tone in this movie.
Are we going to talk about the funeral?
Yes.
We're going to talk about the funeral.
God.
Okay. What?
Yeah.
that scene was a very sharp depiction of grief, but way overdrawn and way over exaggerated, maybe. I don't know.
No, I agree with you. I feel like there's some jarring tonal shifts in this movie. It actually sometimes really took me out of it. Mm-hmm. And the funeral sequence is actually the biggest problem because I find that scene plays out way too long, and I'm confused about how I should feel in that scene because it starts out very much like it should. It's a depiction of grief.
It is, but somewhere along the line it devolves into comedy.
Yes,
which is really weird.
There's
it's a weird feeling.
They're like kicking each other and rolling around on the floor and shit. It's weird.
Yeah, it is a very jarring scene, and if I had to say there was one scene that took me out of the movie and broke my suspension of disbelief, it was that scene.
They were just crying and rolling around, and I do think that there's some genuine overacting in the movie.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if some of it's intentional or if it's just, I don't know. It must be intentional.
Yeah, I think so too. I do think that there's too much detail and purposeful design elements in this movie, especially in the script, that I feel like that isn't obviously a cultural intention to put that in there.
Yeah. So I guess would this make the film like an action comedy?
Yeah, it's
or is it like what? I don't know how to categorize this film.
Not really. No, it is horror, action, comedy, drama, kidnapping, monster movie.
But I will say the comedic parts in this film were better than the comedic parts in Godzilla. I'm sorry, Godzilla. I love you so much, but that was kind of brutes.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Yeah. I think this movie actually, for me personally, works in almost every single way by comparison to the first film that we covered in this episode. And it's not to knock Godzilla because, again, I love everything Godzilla represents and that character, that the icon that is that creature is so important to me. It's the misuse of the character that I find to be troublesome, and more specifically the misuse of the characters in question in the movie. And the host actually gets kind of all of these things right, for me at least anyway. And again, it's all about what kind of monster movie you actually want to see. Yeah. If you're more going for the spectacle, if you're more going for the effects and just sort of like that level of detail and destruction, if that's what you want to see, like the popcorn movie, then I think Godzilla King of the Monsters would be a much better movie to see for you on an entertainment level.
Mm-hmm.
If you want something that's a little more detailed, perhaps something that has like those moments in small sparse sprinklings, but has more human condition elements into it.
So I would say if you're looking for something that has more of a human driven plot, definitely go with The Host. But if you're in it for a monster battle royale, go with Godzilla. It just depends on what you're looking for, because I mean, in The Host there is only the one monster.
Totally.
You don't have aside from, I guess, the U.S. military and authority in general. Anarchy seems to be a bit of a running theme in The Host as well. Then, go with The Host. But, it's a different kind of feel.
Absolutely. I actually think America is more the villain in The Host than anything else, because there's even a or the government more specifically. Yeah. Because the government actually fabricates and creates this disease in the movie. Yeah. That doesn't exist.
Oh, it made me angry.
So the title, The Host, is actually sort of a fabrication. Like this monster that comes out of the Han River, immediately the government spins this creature attack into this infectious disease that's spreading around South Korea. And none of that is true. The monster was created by man, and everything that it did was repercussions for just carelessness. Essentially, of people. So when it comes to this movie, you are going to get bigger messages. It's not just going to be about the monsters. And I think Godzilla very much is. Godzilla is totally about that. And again, like, it both have their place, because like if I just want to have like a popcorn movie, something that's just entertaining on a visual level too, like obviously the visual effects in Godzilla are spectacular.
Well, it's got 13 years over The Host, right?
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, you're not going to go into The Host for the visual effects. It's more careful than that. It's a bit more intelligent than that, perhaps. And not to say that like visual effects don't have their place either. I love effects.
Well, yeah, obviously.
But yeah, anyway, both have their time and place. So without any further ado, I guess we could probably get to the scoring for The Host.
Yeah. I found the film entertaining, with the exception of a few moments, but overall pretty entertaining. Even the exaggerated moments, like the crying and all of the really comedic moments, I found them good. They all fit in place with the movie. So I'm giving this a 7 out of 10.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm actually gonna go a little higher. I think The Host, for character writing and just, I guess, the amount of detail that was put into the messaging in this movie, I'm gonna go with an 8 out of 10 on this one.
Man, we are just not on point today at all.
No, we're
not on the same wavelength at all today.
No, it's a little weird.
It is a little bit odd.
But at least our averages are kind of around the same area. Yeah. If we're going to go down the middle on this.
But again, not math students.
No, we are not at all.
No. So anyway, I guess that pretty much wraps up the first episode of Silver Screen Anomalies. We're really pleased to be able to bring this to you guys, and we're looking forward to future episodes.
Oh, God, yes.
We're hoping to be releasing on a bi-weekly basis, so every couple of weeks, Fridays, maybe Saturdays. I haven't quite nailed it down yet. We do encourage everybody to follow us on social media. We have a Facebook page, Eldritch Creative. Instagram, we're eldritch.creative, and Twitter, we are Eldritch Create. Follow us, like us, share us. We have a pretty interesting episode next time coming up for you.
I'm really excited about this one.
I'm pretty stoked about it. Yeah. It's going to be fun. And we have other projects on the go. So follow us and stay tuned. And I guess that's it.
Yeah, thanks very much for your time and attention, everyone. Looking forward to the next episode.
Yeah, and have a good one. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.